Hi everyone, here I am with Richard Handy, and his Facebook name is Akana. We will ask him what it means. So, Richard, this broadcast is going to my Facebook, my Twitter, and my YouTube, and collectively, I have around 1.5 million people on my Facebook. What I do is, since majority of the people in Pakistan live under the poverty line, I try, and Facebook is free in this country. So if you have a phone, which is $20 or $15, you just buy the phone, turn it on, there's Facebook. You don't pay anything for it. So they don't have water, they might not have electricity, they might not have any basic infrastructure, but they have Facebook. So what I do is I connect them with the people around the globe, and that is their way or small little window of looking on the other side of the world and getting inspired by them, learning from them. 70% of the country, according to the government, cannot read their name in any language. Forget any language. So same thing in India. That makes it around a billion people in India, 900 million, Pakistan around 140 million people. It's a 250 million people country. So I use social media so that people can learn through it through like a collective consciousness building effort. You will get a few friend requests. You can ignore them unless you like some of them and want to connect with them. If it's okay with you.
Yes.
Cool. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you're enjoying the beautiful Costa Rica. And I'm so jealous. I can hear the parrots outside. I hear that they're everywhere. And I'm right now in Karachi, Pakistan. Electricity just came, so my air conditioning just turned on. I'm a little hot.
Mm.
It's very hot here. It's 45 degrees centigrade, so it's a little boiling. And um, I heard about this scanning thing a month ago from another friend of mine, that there is some machine, you take a photo, and it's like a scanner of a new kind, and you get some information about the soul of what's going on. I don't know if it's the same technology which you're using and applying, but I'm very intrigued by how somebody sitting in another part of the world can just scan somebody and know about somebody's chakras and whatever is blocked in our body. So tell me more about yourself and tell me what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate this. I I I've worked as a bioenergetics practitioner for the past 10 years, and bioenergetics is a mixture between Western technology and Eastern medicine, and it translates everything down to vibration. So it has the same common language. And once you see everything in the same language, you can see how everything is interconnected. And you see the energy of it. Where is the energy going? Where is it flowing? Where is it not? And what resonates, because everybody's truth is different. So what resonates for that person, what flows is going to be different from the next. Everyone has a different story. So through the process, essentially the body becomes the doctor. And then we start to discover each individual's personal, extraordinary, hidden story underneath. After about 2 or 3 years of doing the work, I used to run an acting conservatory. I was very focused on the arts as well as the physiology, working with massage and athletes. So I just started noticing one of the things, the gifts I was given was to notice microscopic movement and energy with athletes and with actors. And I started to understand emotion and exchange and relationship. And after about 3 years of doing the bioenergetics, we discovered that the root of everything went down to DNA, miasms, and emotions. So whenever the DNA was essentially holding a story, a belief system, and then people's lives that they're born into are then structured around those walls based around the structure of the DNA. And the emotion, when we have discord, and when there's discord, it's either we need something to feel safe or we're fighting it to feel safe, keeping it away. So there's a lack of acceptance, and therefore we're not able to truly hear. And as a consequence from this fear-based mechanism, we end up running our whole lives around that unconsciously. So we found that everybody in the office would resonate. The root of everything went down to those three pieces. And when we would discover it, we call it the bank robber effect. For example, if somebody robbed a bank, they would spend every second when they're sleeping and awake to make sure that they're not seen. And this is just a perception because of a belief system based around that idea or that thought, like, that if you are seen, then suddenly all these things happen. It's the story. But once everybody knows that, then it's out. So there's nothing to protect from. So we have these little bank robbers, these little things that are hiding underneath. And with the scan, what we're able to do is see beyond any defense mechanisms. We get to see what resonates at the core of whatever discord is going on emotionally, mentally, or physically, a pattern that's happening. You can check on anything. And once you unravel that, you can put it into balance. We use two different processes with sound, New German medicine. So, and it's been extremely effective because when you change the root, the seed of an issue, a tree blossoms or it transitions into something new. And as a consequence, that changes the person's vibration, their magnetism. So their life, certain pieces that don't resonate anymore, they don't hold, they fall away or they transition. And it creates space for new pieces to come in as it takes them on a new journey. We were starting to discover and see illness not as a problem or something to fight, but something that was trying to help people become alive again. And it became a whole new story when we started seeing illness or discord from that perspective. So that's where it's taken us. And we've just seen the most extraordinary experiences and miracles and stories over the last 10 years.
A week ago, I was hearing a audiobook by Joe Dispenza where he was explaining how when we meditate or we get into a certain state of mind, the body starts to heal itself. And yesterday, you came in and said the same thing. So I'm very interested to understand a little bit more on how the body can cure its own problems like cancer or anything which is physically or emotionally broken. It goes back, it restarts itself. How does it function? Where does it come from? Is it epigenetics? Is it hard coding in the DNA? Is it something we're changing, or is it already there? Or is it the same thing or not even? I mean, maybe
With
you're
respect
talking
to
about
the last part, what was it?
maybe you're talking about repairing the body on automatically in a different way than what Joe Dispenza was explaining.
It's in a similar vibration in terms of the resonance, because once the body is designed to heal itself, like it's an incredibly efficient, effective machine. Incredible. So once you allow the energy to flow, miracles can happen. That's why Joe even talks about that, how miracles can happen once the channel is open, once the energy can move. Because it's our belief system. That's how much power we have in order to create these things or facilitate these things. And also to let them go. And what we look at in terms of the human experience is we've come here to have the fullest potential of all these experiences. And a lot of people will continue to repeat them often until they come to a certain sense of fruition. But we've all been playing these roles, whether it's the hero or the villain, and just whatever these emotions, these experiences, what is it to live as a human in discord? And once people fulfill that experience or they want to shift it, and they can do that, then it's about having a new experience. And often what we find is a lot of people they'll go on both ends of the pendulum, and then they find balance because they had these experiences, they know them, they've experienced, they've lived them, and now they're in flow. Because a lot of clients will come in with a lot of different fear and a lot of stories around what these diseases mean and what's coming up for them in the history, because there's so many things that feel like they have a death sentence, when in truth, they're just trying to help us come alive and they just want attention. Everything is energy. So when a vibration is vibrant and alive, all it wants to do is get attention because it's trying to communicate something to us. There's a story, there's a gift. Like people keep talking about the dark and the light right now, and they're both divine. They're both extraordinary. And the dark is where the treasures are because you can't see them yet. We love the dark because it's what we haven't discovered. It's the surprises, the excitement. So we find that what I found over years was that this process, everyone had a root for everything that was going on, no matter what it was. We would look at the emotion, the story, and then unraveling that story was a profound process. It was incredible. We would often see that in their physiology, it wasn't their story, it was their parents or their grandparents. And sometimes during the clearing, their physiology would actually go into a state of holding. Or, for example, if their parent had a massive nosebleed because they were thrown into the ground and they were assaulted, as soon as the information came up, suddenly their nose would just explode, start bleeding, because it's coming up to now. Because what's going on is we're holding on to the past and keeping it in our body, when honestly it's just now. So we're keeping the past now. Once we bring that to now and we shift the story, then the whole channel is open and the body can then do what it needs to do in order to shift and heal. What was really fascinating about this process, to answer your question, was that everybody had all these things, but I thought, why are humans in discord? We're the only thing on the planet that is in discord with the planet and everything else on it. So there was this huge rabbit hole that started to open up. I was like, well, what is our piece? Like, where did this come from? And so I started looking to asking the question, well, what is the root of humanity's discord? Why are we operating in this way? Because when we're dealing with individuals, although we're all interconnected, we're also dealing with leaves. We're also dealing with the thing that's hiding above the story. But the deeper story we found was in the DNA imprint. Like, there's a story that we're all holding on to that has caused this discord for us to have this fight with the planet, and then consequently the fight inside with ourselves. And we've been playing that out for thousands and thousands of years, which goes back to extreme events, in this case, the flood. And if we look at our behavior, you'll see that everything we've been doing as a consequence fits perfectly with the discord with our planet and why we've been operating. Because what we do doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense to kill each other the way we are, to be pounding into the ground like a hammer, like a stake into the ground for pulling out oil, and then burning it, and then exhausting it into the air, and then dumping everything into the waters. Why would we defecate into our toilets with fresh water? Doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's another story that's underneath that. And then what we end up doing, because we stopped hearing the thing that we love so much because of some discord, because we were hurt, it was so traumatizing, we stopped hearing it. We stopped listening to the earth. We stopped hearing the vibrations and the authenticity that is trying to always communicate to us through the elements and through nature. And instead, we keep then doing it out between each other. Men and women, we get to be mirrors for ourselves as we're trying to find our way home to ourselves and to the planet. Because there was a time when people used to get on crafts, on boats, and go for thousands of miles, not because they were conquering the ocean, but because they were playing with the ocean. They were there to go on a quest, on an adventure, on a journey. We're designed to live, not to struggle, to thrive, to co-create, to play. As a species, as an animal, we're designed to feel more than anything else. And then we play with that feeling, and then we create something. And then we feel, play, create. And the heart doesn't care what that is. It just wants to keep moving that. But our society and culture has caused us to believe that those things are bad. And this honestly goes back to rage, which then goes back to the planet and this idea of this rage taking us out. So there's a lot of tethers there that we're finding. And right now, a lot of them are being worked out with COVID-19 and everything that's been going on. There's a lot of things that are shifting.
Would you try to explain the Discord word one more time so that we understand that?
So I couldn't quite hear you. One more time.
The word Discord, what does it actually mean?
Discord. To have tension between, it's when energy is in discord. When it's in flow, it means the energy's moving. When there's discord, there's a break. And as a consequence, there's no flow. The energy doesn't move as it's designed to, and you keep having to restart. The discord, in the case of human anatomy, human behavior, is caused by fear. And so we create tension, we're observing, and we use our eyes to look out for things instead of trying to discover things. Because the world is full of technology, naturally, in the way that it's designed. But yet we're always looking out for ourselves, trying to figure out how to prevent ourselves from being killed. But honestly, we're here to live fully, to create, to co-collaborate with the planet, with each other, with the animals, the elements.
Somebody's cleaning the house in the background, and it's like it's next door, and it's kind of disturbing to understand what you're saying.
Oh, is it loud? Okay. Hold on just a moment. Is it possible to wait? Perdón, ¿es posible esperar? Señora, ¿es posible? Pero es un interview. ¿Es posible un poquito más? Okay. Yeah, perdón. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did you end up here? You know, it looks like you're my age, and must have been an interesting journey. What do you want to tell us? How did you end up doing what you're doing?
I pursued acting a long time ago. I think to discover my own heart. What I found is that acting, and still do work with the arts, the acting provides an environment where we're given permission to be our fullest, most authentic self. And so that we're actually celebrated for having our fullest expression. But people have then permission to do it, and there's no repercussions. You can scream, you can cry, you can yell, you can play any character you want, you can be who you are. So you get to explore the human heart. And went through that process for a long time. Then when I was 25, I got a disease, and one of the ones where you essentially get very scared. And I got a diagnosis with a informal diagnosis. So I talked to my chiropractor about it, and she said you should talk to this gentleman in New Jersey. And he did bioenergetics, and it was the only thing that made sense. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have anything. I met my chiropractor at Walmart. This all just seemed very serendipitous and lucky. So I just said, "Do you know anyone?" And she said, "Actually, a friend of mine had the same condition, and that condition was eradicated. It just went away 4 months later." So I said, "Well, I'm willing to give it a shot."
What was the condition? What was the condition? I guess he got disconnected. So let's see if we can get him back. So what did you guys hear so far? I want to understand from you what did you understood so far. Um, Google the words, ask questions and comment so that when he comes back, maybe he can explain to us what's going on. Basically, I want you to go ahead and watch my spirituality course, which I released yesterday, and try to understand how this Western and Eastern philosophy of spirituality works, and how our body works, our soul works. So, what he is offering is a body scan where you take a photo of yours and then you send him your date of birth, and he tells you processes you through a machine and tells you um, what chakra is closed. He doesn't use the word chakra, but the 7 points of energies, what is not flowing in our body, and when he identifies it, he helps you open the chakra, and then because it gets open, the body starts to heal itself. Because the soul is now healed, now because of the soul is healed, the body will heal itself. So if you have cancer, it should go away. If you have any other problem like something like MS, that should go away. If you have any fears, that should go away. If you have any other emotional issues, that should go away, because they're all connected to interconnected, intertwined. And as he said, the word discord, or imbalance between the heart and the soul and the world, there is a disconnection, and then when there is a disconnection, everything falls out of place. So I think he's offline. He's unable to see my message. Let me see if I can call him. is WhatsApp is offline also. Let me see if I can answer some of your questions. So no one really understands how or why a positive attitude helps people recover faster from the surgery. So I don't know if you heard what he said. There is no such thing as positive or negative. It's all part of it. It is darkness and there is light. Darkness is in the nighttime and daytime is the light time. It's the other side of the coin. It's all coming from the same source. And it's there to help us discover something. The positive attitude should be in all cases, which means what is positiveness? You, when you break your leg, when you get into trouble, when you get into pain, you kind of, hey,
Hey there. His electricity went out. Thank you
that's
so
okay.
much.
I'm glad you came back. So you were saying about the Discord,
Yes,
and
me
you were
too.
telling me you went into a personal problem, and I was asking if you want to share what was the personal issue.
Yeah, it appeared to be again without a formal diagnosis because
So I encourage all of you to connect with him. I have tagged him in the description. Go ahead and connect with him, YouTube him, watch his content. If he gives time, they'll do more interviews to understand what's going on and how does all this work. It's kind of complicated for me still because I'm recent student of all this information for myself, but it does make sense to me. It doesn't have to make sense for you yet. But I do encourage you to practice meditation. I do encourage you to um, make your prayers better with meditation. Focus on the words, focus on what they, don't focus on the ritual, but try to breathe, try to focus on the prayer itself when you're praying, and your prayer will become like a meditation, where basically meditation in Urdu means Dhyan, and you're more focused on your own prayer, and that thus your prayer becomes a better prayer than it is. How do you get rid of the discord and get into the harmony? I think Carla meditation helps, and what he's offering is a body scan, a remote body scan, and he takes a photo, and then he puts in some numbers, and he's saying that he can tell you what's happening to you. So maybe you can interview him and ask him what exactly is happening. So how do you overcome fear? Samarina, fear comes from different in Vedic philosophy. Fear comes with a energy blockage. Of everything comes from an energy blockage. So if your energy is blocked, you get into different problems.
hey
Hey,
there. Thank you. I think we got it.
there you go. No worries. So,
So
so you called your bioenergy practitioners in Jersey, and you had some problems. What were the problems? What did he cure?
it looked like it was testicular related, and I started sleeping 12, 14 hours a day. I was a guy who slept 5 hours a day, and every day I just could not wake up. I was lethargic, extremely fit, and found a massive growth down there, and all kinds of things went out of whack. So went up to see him, And again, no claims to treat, cure, diagnose anything. But there was a little girl next to me at the first session, and she was 14. She'd been blind for 12 years. I went in 6 weeks later. We had a session together. She was starting to see. She happened to be there the same day. She could see, and then she was explaining, what was discovered and what she discovered in that process. And then 3-4 days later, after seeing him having some homeopathics, was taking that. Suddenly, my natural energy levels were back. My patterns were back. So I really believed in it. It made sense to me, and I got obsessed with it because it's just a rabbit hole when you start looking at vibration and technology and how everything's interconnected through energy. Tesla's work, Reich's work, Bach's work with flower essences. It goes on. And these are the home vibrations. This is the foundational pieces, cold lasers. These are all the most foundational pieces of humanity. It's the things that are connected most to what we are, which is light and sound and the earth and the elements. And when we start using those in a way and receiving them, but because we've been in discord with the earth for so long, we haven't allowed ourselves to receive these. That's why grounding is suddenly this huge thing, but yet we wear shoes, and yet we have these cars, and we flatten the ground, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, what's the story underneath? Why are we doing it? Why are we the only thing building a house on a house? Why do we control our water? Why is cold water, cold weather, why is rain bad? We're the only thing that protects itself from it, essentially, on the planet. So what's going on? And why aren't we using our greatest resource, which is the planet, the elements, vibrational technology? The cold lasers are incredible. Sound vibration technology is absolutely incredible. And I've just come to believe anything is possible. Like I don't, anybody tells me something's not, that's an opportunity to say, well, guess what? Maybe I'm not here to prove you wrong, but anything is possible, and energy just wants to flow. So it sent me on that. So actually this illness, quote unquote, took me there. And then I ended up going on this whole other track, moved to New York City, got obsessed with the work, expanded my acting career deeply, and then opened my own conservatory, then had my own clinic. And now I'm taking it to another level with where I'm at now, as I'm starting to integrate and work with other kinds of technologies. And we would say channeling, we would say more divine connection and intelligence, as we're allowing our intuition to come in to teach us even more things. It's an incredible rabbit hole.
I'm always scared to learn more about this stuff because the more I find them, like, and now I have to study more about this. I'm so curious, and I want to study and understand it. Carly was telling me to subscribe to Gaia. I'm like, no, I don't want to subscribe because I would freak out and I would just do nothing and just watch it, and then it'll drive me nuts. So I'm happy that you are so stable, and at the same time you're studying all this. Um, People who have never heard of bioenergy like me, what should they Google? What should they learn before they get into it?
If they want to, you can study bioenergetics. It's a pretty broad field. But Reich's work and Tesla's work, if people are really curious about it, if you just want to have people just want to get connected, just talk to a practitioner. Start to get information around that. You can find, in terms of resources, they find inconsistent. It's almost like the quantum world in a certain sense, that it's still being discovered. It's still being understood, like how we play in this and how we work with this. And bioenergetics also works with quantum. So for example, like your photograph is a 2-dimensional image. When I put it on the machine, 2D doesn't work with linear time. So it's always tethered to you. So when I have your photograph on there or a piece of your hair, I'm scanning you and I can read anything that's resonant vibrationally with your body. So, and every practitioner can have that technology and use it a million different ways. And that's one of the things with this, is there is an inconsistency. Just like you'll have doctors and every practitioner has a different way of operating. So, but literally you can do it in a million different ways. And that's why I think there's such an inconsistency often with describing, except the general understanding of what is bioenergetics. You can read that. Dr. Voll's work, if you want to look at the Bible, he's considered that. And Richard Gerber, he also, those two practitioners, Dr. Voll and Richard Gerber is kind of like the grandfather of that work. Checking out Reich and Tesla, they also worked with things that are relevant to this kind of technology and what's going on in the world, because it all goes back to vibration and light and sound and frequency.
One is Tesla, and who's the other guy?
Rife, R-I-F-E.
Who is this guy? I don't know.
Oh, Rife discovered, essentially he gave a name. You'll see a lot of times in like horror movies where they say they're trying to find the demon's name, the thing they're fighting, its name. And in a sense, it's like, what are you fighting? And when you actually see what it really is, what he did is he showed people the frequency of it. So he was able to determine the vibration of everything, and had even made a claim to had cured every disease. There was a lot of controversy around this. His office got shut down, everything got taken away, but he broke into a whole new paradigm of medicine and working with homeopathics and vibration. And a lot of the vibrational science, most of it, honestly, today, and a lot of the technology is based around that work. So like everything in my technology has all the right frequencies in there. So you can now play with the body because you actually have the identity of it. You know what its vibration is.
You said R-A-F-E?
R-I-F-E.
Is there a last one?
Rife is the last name, correct.
What's the first name?
I'm not remembering.
When I put Rife, I don't get anything. I just get a
Yeah, I put in Rife frequencies. If you put in Rife frequencies.
Okay, now something comes. Okay, interesting.
Raymond Rife. Thank you.
Carla is asking a question. Do you have supplements?
Yes, the technology, because everything, once you have, there's a lot of ways it works. Like we can actually imprint frequencies through cold lasers and then put that into the body. And then when we match its same frequency, it tends to do some magic. We can also imprint homeopathics. We can make them in the office. We have a machine, so it's acclimating the body to that level of discord. So basically, if you have a wall, when you take homeopathic and you get it in your physiology, just as because you trust it, you're trusting the supplement that you're taking, it gets in your physiology and you're like, oh, that's the frequency. That's what that is. That's all that is. And then your body starts to acclimate to it and you start fighting it less and less. When the resistance goes away, when the acceptance is there, then the flow happens and then the body can move. We also can scan any supplement into the technology. So it gets imprinted. So we have a whole section that just says supplements. And we can scan the person to see what resonates for them. And we can go through 1,000 supplements in a matter of less than a minute to see which one resonates the strongest for the person. And then the person can choose whether or not that resonates for them, whether they want it. Because it all goes back to resonance. That's a famous quote by Tesla. Everything's just resonance, resonance, resonance. Your life is your resonance, everything you're resonating with. Because you're a magnet. We're all magnets.
Okay. So what's the procedure if I decide to send you a photo and a date of birth? What exactly do you do? What kind of machine do you use what exactly happens?
I have a Bioenergetics. I have a machine that's a profound technology. It's made by New Human. And this is an older technology. It's called body scan. I do an initial scan with the photograph and I see the data. What I'm focused on, again, because every practitioner works a little bit differently, is I focus primarily on the emotions and what we call heart layers. And I can look at again, this is all resonance, what's resonating for you and your body and your truth. And then I'll pull up all the emotions and then I'll see where they came from, where they're storing in your body for the resonance, and what chakra is related to it, and then whether or not you're fighting it or you're addicted to it. So like and because that means you need either an imprint, so you get like a homeopathic, or you're just needing it all the time, or you don't feel safe. That's all that is. And once we know that, we can start to see the story, because we start to, as we talk to the person, we see the story that's hidden underneath. once they're all laid out, whether it's for what the body is asking for, a specific condition, or perhaps a pattern people have been living out, we can see, well, what is the emotional root of anything? And then when we find it, then we work with the person to put it into balance through a process, called New German medicine. That's the foundation of that. And then there's another process which I learned, I'm not sure of its origins. It was something that I think is a collage of a lot of things I learned, to take someone through what's called a heart layer. Essentially, a heart layer is it's the thing that's closest to our heart. It's the most sensitive. It's what we protect the most. And we will do anything, because it's so threatening often to protect it, even though we may not consciously think we want otherwise. It's because what's underneath is there's so much feeling. There's so much sensitivity. So what we do is we give a space for the person to, while the frequency is playing, because the frequency will open up that area wherever in the body it's storing. And then it's essentially like opening up the computer. We can get inside. The first part is about expressing what has never been expressed. Like the deep, the dark, every and anything that's not been said. And I help facilitate that process through guiding somebody through it. Then, because people often get stuck there, but they don't express it, the next part is about saying what you really wanted instead. Because usually people don't feel like they can have it, or it's worth it, or they even have the opportunity to do that. So what did you want instead? And often people don't know initially because they were so caught in the fight. And then the next part is about, what are you doing? What is this person doing or not doing that's keeping this pattern in place? Because they're half of it. If it's two people, or even if it's money, or if it's intimacy, or whatever it is, whatever the story is, how are they contributing to it? Are they not being authentic? Are they hiding? Are they pushing away? And it's all good. There's no judgment around anything in this process. It's just about awareness and acceptance. And then the last part is seeing how it was all happening for them. But because of their story, and because of what happened initially, it's really hard to see how this was honestly trying to benefit them. And once we rewire the story, while the physiology is open because of the sound frequency, you get to change the entire vibration of the person. And when their vibration changes, suddenly things start happening. Their physical body changes. Their life starts shifting. New things come in. Some things fall away. Some things have some discord and they shift. Opportunities show up. For example, I had one client who, she had a block around her desires, and that was to do with her heart. And it went back to all kinds of physical issues, because if we don't move with those expressions, they store and they're going to create something. So if it's not out here, it's going to come in here. So she had an opportunity to go around the world, and she always wanted to be on a boat and go around the world. And this captain once invited her, and she said no because she was worried about abandonment issues with her husband. But yet she said no to her dream. And there was too much discord at home, so she said no. She hadn't talked to him in 7 years. The day after the scan, we cleared that, we shifted that. And the next morning she got a text from the captain saying, "Hey, I'm going on a trip again around the world. Are you available? Would you like to come?" Or another woman had been estranged from her son for 24 years. He called her the next day. Because when there's no more resistance, that channel's open. So things can shift naturally. It's an organic process, and it's rather quick.
Interesting. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us before we let you go?
Resonance and belief, we finding story is one of the most powerful things you can have and do. Like we're often, people's lives will be based on their belief system. And I think it's so important to remember, one, hope is such an important thing, especially when people think are struggling or feel disconnected, whether they're in abundance or not. And just, I encourage people, one, to remember everything's happening for us somehow. And I've seen that even the darkest situations, the most dreaded circumstances, there's been light at the end of that tunnel. And neither of us could have seen it initially until we looked at everything. So, and then I've also seen anything possible. I've seen the most extraordinary forgiveness of oneself and of other people from the most incredible traumas. So whatever your condition, and I think Joe Dispenza's work also speaks to this so deeply, there's always a way. And I think that's what the universe is almost asking us to do, because we are creators, is to engage with creation and follow your heart, follow your feelings, play with this, allow yourself to express your truth. Your truth will set you free. It's amazing.
Do you think you can do something for a whole country with this scanner? Like, to unblock the country's flow of energy?
That's a really great question. One of the last things we were working on was looking at a town. Like, what is the resonance of a town population? And what is the town needing? What is the country needing? I think a country has a resonance because it has contained itself in a box, just like a human being is in its container. So do I believe so? I do. Have I figured this out yet? Not yet. Is it possible? I think anything's possible, definitely. What does that look like? I'm not sure yet. But I believe it's like looking at 5G, for example. There's certain resonances that are so healthy for human beings, or cell phones. And if you have a cell phone, and if every cell phone had a certain frequency that actually caused higher consciousness, it was actually working with higher consciousness. Everybody has one of these. Like, for example, the beamer technology is profoundly powerful. It's a really powerful frequency that helps open up the physiology and the whole microscopic, which is 7. So this becomes something that's serving.
You left us for a minute.
So the technology, if the frequencies that we're actually putting through our Wi-Fi, putting through our phones, is actually serving the physiology, then it helps. But again, what is our relationship with our phone? Which is why probably things become negative. It's all this goes back to our relationships.
So I don't know if you've heard of David Hawkins' scale of consciousness.
David Hawkins, what?
Scale of consciousness.
Yes.
So he measures everything, and I mean, I think once you can measure something, you can do something about it, and you can, it's like putting a number on it. As you might have heard, uh, something you can calculate, you can get done, or something like that. So I have been trying to understand his philosophy and his process, and he has worked a lot by mapping the state of consciousness of a country, state, town, and as you know about the experimentation by Mahashari about the collective meditation practices, where when a lot of people meditate, the whole state or the city starts to get out of there is less negative energy there's less robbery, there's less negativity happening. So if we can I don't know, have you heard of that? Have you read
Yes.
about it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw on your wall also about the call for more meditators on collective meditation. So if we can change the frequency by collective consciousness by having a lot of meditators, maybe we can find a way for changing blockages. And because the country I live in has a very interesting history. The Buddha was here, Sikhism was born here, Hinduism has two or four most interesting sites here. For the world's first university was here. 10,000-year-old cities were here. 25,000-year-old cities were here. They're all gone. And one of my teachers used to say there's something wrong with this part of the land. And today, after talking to you, I'm thinking, what is exactly? Maybe we can run a scan on it and see what happens, and see what is actually happening. That it is it is going through this cycle of destruction. And I don't know if you know about the there is this another philosophy that the world is about to end in the next 15 years because of the cycle is about to complete the 2,200 years old cycle, or 2,150 years cycle. The Mayan calendar was there and all that. People have been saying that. And so I'm encountering all these things, and I'm just questioning, and there is so many rabbit holes. I don't know which one to go through. And any thoughts on that? On doing an experimentation on the whole country, maybe?
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And it's such an incredible undertaking. It sounds magnanimous. I think it's beautiful. because I think that everything wants, for example, like old technology, ancient technology right now, we created technology out of separation. Like we're separate from the earth, but we look at pyramid technology, we look at ancient technologies. You look at the Greek structures for their buildings, and then you look at a microchip and you realize they're the same. But when we don't trust the earth, we're going to do everything ourselves away from the earth. That's where all this discord came from. And that's an incredible process. So there's no judgment in any of these processes. Like it's all perfect. So the idea that these cities were there, it's like something new wants to be created always. It's not that, something shifting is a good or bad thing. It's just, it is. Like energy feels place. It's always creating something new, always creating something new. So the idea now, I think, like what you're saying is, there's something around the energy of the land that sounds so extraordinary, because each part of the land, I think, does have a specific vibration that does resonate in a certain way. And I think these old technologies are now wanting to come to the new technologies and combine and start coming home. It's like bringing the things we had in separation home to us and to the earth, and then listening from that space. Because I think Pakistan is such, there's so much energy around that country and that part of the world. So, but what is it now? Like, what does it want to become now? If we didn't judge anything, nothing's right, wrong, just asking the question, what do we want to create? And then what inspires that? What is the resonance of it? And the idea with this technology is, again, is the earth is inspiring when we're listening, and the technology is to bring out the ideas to help facilitate, I think, pathways, because what it does is it brings out the hidden stories that people can't see beyond their defense mechanisms. So if people are seeing these cities as being gone as a terrible thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, what if the idea is, let's just make it neutral? Let's just look at this blank and slate and say, okay, we have some incredible things here. How do we want to play now? What do we want to create? And what if we did somehow scan this land with technology to figure out what is the radiance, the resonance of it? Because it has a resonance either way. That's going to be a big player with it. And there's a reason why, specific areas of the world continue in certain patterns. So I think that's an incredible undertaking and a beautiful mission.
Okay. Interesting that last year I was invited to a mind conference by this gentleman who has impacted one fourth of Sweden. And he is one of the foremost worker on the mind, how our mind works. And when I was going to this conference, this is something which came out of my mind, that I want to study how do I change the consciousness of my whole country somehow, because I think there's some blockade which is disallowing us to grow. Something is just weird here, which I don't get it. And I just wanted to play with the idea and see how we can raise the consciousness of our own whole country. It's 250 million people. How do you do that?
Mm.
I don't know. But it's an interesting question for me to pursue.
Let's discuss that. It's actually, I think, a few photographs and doing some scans and asking some questions can start the process.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. How can I help you, or how can we collectively help you grow your mission?
Hmm. That's that's a lovely surprise. I'm working on getting a very short film out that discusses the root of humanity's discord that I think is important. So that's one piece I'm growing with and facilitating.
Is it done already? Is it in editing? Where is it now?
It's not done. I have the whole structure of it. It's just the verbiage. It's the writing that's wanting to come through, wanting to honor this message as thoroughly as I can. And I have a presentation that I've done for companies, regarding this and understanding how technology is bringing us home and how it's connected to the Discord. But I want this engaging piece to be created so that it can be easily accessible in 10 minutes, and people can it can open up basically the bank robber, the rabbit hole, to see, oh wait, what's underneath all this stuff. And
How
ultimately,
long documentary is it?
What's that?
How
How long?
long documentary is it?
It's not a documentary.
short
Well,
film?
I guess in a certain sense it is. Yeah, it's right now. I'm wanting to condense it to 10 minutes.
I will introduce you to someone who I recently hired. He is a writer, and just have a talk with him and see if he can help you. We also own a production company, so maybe we can help you there. And just let me know how we can help the whole humanity in some way if I can.
Thank you. And any photographs of a region that you find are important in terms of Pakistan? Or you can
I
even tell
want
me the
to
names?
just do the whole country for now, but then there's a very interesting space here, which I feel, because you are somebody who I can tell this. I feel that it was nuked 30,000 years ago, and or something very old, or 10,000 years ago, or 20,000 years ago. It's just a conspiracy theory, maybe. But when you
Mm.
drive by it, it's like a huge Grand Canyon, and it has a remainder of a sphinx, a princess, or like if you see the Greek thingy or the whole temple, you can see that. If you can imagine, you can literally see that there. But the locals say that it's nothing, it's just made by wind. But it doesn't make sense to me for some reason. When you pass it, it tells
Mm.
you the story, it can talk to you. So it tells me a different story. I can't sense it. I will send you some photos, and then right behind it, there is 2,200 years old temple of a very, very historic temple for Hinduism. So I'm like, where did this come from? And then on the other side, there's this sphinx there, just like the sphinx in Egypt, and there's a lion is there, and all that. You can see it if you see the remains, but it feels like something like a nuclear attack was there, and it just melted it all into one squishy thingy. And now what is left is this. Are you there?
Yes. And now what is left?
Yeah. So I will send you some photos of that, but I'm not concerned of that area so much because they're not human beings. So many. Uh, but it's just, I mean, there's lots of stories like here, like that. But if you just scan the whole country, I don't understand. It's a very interesting country, and I think the reason, what is the main problem here is mistrust. Like just like in the United States, even right now, what is going on is a lot of mistrust, and I don't know what chakra is blocked for mistrust and what energies are blocked for mistrust. Did you hear me?
Mm. Yes, I did.
So, do you know which chakra is responsible for trusting other human beings?
I think that trust can have a relationship in a lot of different ways, but everything's going to come down to fear ultimately. The question is, what is the story? What is the pattern? But yeah, when we get to the root of that piece, one piece at a time, but fear is ultimately at the root of all of it.
Into the heart? Or which chakra?
Heart. Uh, Heart. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. Whenever you have time, just ping me and we can get back and talk more
Thank you.
and discuss. And I hope that people who are hearing this talk with us and who want to uh, more talk more can inbox you and ask for your appointment and maybe do another session with you trying to understand. This guy Kessler is saying trying to understand his concept. Me too. I have no idea what's going on. It's very complicated because we have never heard these things, and I hope that Richard will educate us more on these subjects.
Yeah, I appreciate this. It's inspiring to have great videos to simplify this process so it can be more easily understood on my webpage. Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. So thank you.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much. All right.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, have an amazing day. Thank you for this time.
Thank you.
All right.